It was all right, but I think he was thinking, what am I doing in this sports centre with a bunch of kids?
That could be an interesting out of context.
Yeah.
Christopher Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
I don't need to hype you up anymore, listeners. It's the Reece Brown Derby, for God's sake. Welcome to the warm-up episode 62. Joining me, your host, Brady Frost, is Tom Bradshaw, as always, and we're joined today by Mr. Stephen Chicken. How are you both?
Hi, not bad. How you doing?
Good, mate. Good. Thanks for coming on. The podcast cross paths once again.
Yeah, no worries. Always a pleasure to join the Takes That Chance family for another round of podcasting.
Oh, and you're always welcome in the family, Steve. But, you know, it doesn't seem to be reciprocated on the other end. But it's fine, mate. Don't worry about it.
We're a close shot.
So, Steve, actually, my first question before we get into the preview of Peterborough, it's a little bit off topic. You've had to cover town for some pretty barren spells in your time, but obviously we're going through, as the managers would say, a good moment at the moment. So how has it been covering the club when they're on an unbeaten run and all things are going well?
Yeah, my whole 3 years. Obviously it's been pretty miserable the past few years, and fans don't need me to tell them that, but sort of from a journalist perspective, it's really nice to see the fans, particularly after the Fulham game. That was sort of the turning point, I think, because the Sheffield United game, I think people were sort of quite trepidatious going into that and going, I think they're going to drop off. And then they put in that performance against Sheffield United where they were unlucky, very unlucky not to win. And people were thinking, oh, maybe we can give Fulham a game. So then to beat Fulham, that was really sort of the turning point. And you can see, on social media around the ground, people talking to you, that everything sort of really changed and there's a real sort of buzz about it. In terms of the club, to be honest, it's been like that for a while at the club, even when they were having that sort of mini, it seems weird to call it a bad spell now. It wasn't really a bad spell, but like a mini sort of bad spell where they had the 1 win in 7 back in November. Even then, the players' attitude was like, all right, calm down, it's fine, sort of thing. They were talking even then about the togetherness and what a good dressing room it is, and everything like that. And I think it's sort of for the fans to get on board with that, obviously you need the results, and now they've got the results as well. It feels like everyone's sort of pulling in the same direction and along for the ride together now.
Definitely. Well, it's good to have you covering it, obviously, as well. Although, maybe it's the sadistic side of me, but I did enjoy your 5 conclusions when we were being quite bad, because you picked it apart well.
It's in some ways it's easier to write when town are bad, because Dave Hartrick and I have talked about this a lot off air, just sort of when things are going well, it's almost hard to find angles on things, because there's only so many ways you can say, yeah, it's good, isn't it? But it's also like it's easier to write, it's more fun to write when things are going well, because it's always nicer to praise people than try and sort of pull apart their performances or say this is rubbish, that's rubbish, etc. So and I get to put more jokes in it when they're winning as well, which is
long may it continue. And yeah, we've got another game to preview right now, so obviously Peterborough on Friday night under the lights. I think it's on Sky. That's good. But we'll be at the ground. Most of us can make it anyway. But heading into this one, Peterborough haven't won in the league since the 11th of December, where they beat Millwall 2-1. They are bottom of the table, winning 5, drawing 6, and losing 22 of their 33 matches played so far. So a bit of a change in the dugout. Grant McCann's come in, replacing Darren Ferguson, and lost his first game in charge 3-0 to his former club, Hull City, playing tonight against Man City. So as we record, so we will see. But yeah, it was quite interesting, I suppose, to get away from the setup. I was chatting to a few. It's not on Sky. Thank you, Stephen, for the edit. Ignore that. I was chatting to a few town fans before we head into the booth to record this one, and I wasn't feeling particularly nervous about this, but obviously we do have a bit of a record, Tom. As I'm sure as a town fan you will know, And looking into stats, although we've not been in the same league as them, we haven't actually won since 2010 against Peterborough, which is a 3-2 win in the Johnson's Paint Trophy. And Tom, I love you, but you can be a bit pessimistic about Town sometimes. But have you changed your tune for this one? Do you think we can get a positive result?
I think I'm pessimistic because it means that if we do lose, then I don't feel as bad about it. But it is Peterborough, isn't it, Brady? And like you said, 2010, last time we beat them, and that was in the cup as well. And then you got to go back to 2009, a 1-0 win at home. It's 10 wins each on the head v head, so it's kind of a big one, isn't it? It's like kind of bragging rights, whoever wins this, because the way things are going, they could go down, we could go up, we might not play them for a while. You never know. I am more confident than I usually am going into a Peterborough game, though. I think I watched their highlights against Fulham. I thought they were all right, but the highlights against Hull, the way Hull created so many chances against them so easily, it looked quite promising for us coming into this, I think.
Definitely. And Steve, you're invested neutral, obviously. Do we, as Town fans, do we not need to worry about this one? They are bottom of the league after all.
Yeah, I mean, it's the classic thing where anyone can beat anyone in this division and all of that, but even still, this is a game Town really should be winning. Their best player left in January, in Siriki Dembele. They are bottom of the league. They've had the change of manager, and Darren Ferguson has walked away from it rather than being sacked. So he obviously didn't have huge sort of faith in his ability to sort of turn things around there. And to be honest, I think we've seen Grant McCann has sort of struggled in the bottom end of the championship over, in his spells, in his spell at Hull. So in over 2 seasons. So yeah, really, you should be winning this. I mean, when it's the team versus third at home to the team bottom, it's hard to say otherwise, isn't it?
Absolutely. But, like you say, any team can beat any team in this league. That's why we love it. Was there anyone, you talked about Dembele, who's obviously left. Is there any from Peterborough you picked out as a key player for this one, Steve?
I've got the goalkeeper, strangely enough, Stephen Bender, who's coming from Swansea over the January transfer window. And by all accounts, he's done really well, particularly against Fulham last week. We're talking about how poor Peterborough are, but they gave Fulham at least a bit of a game. They lost 2-1 in the end. But, you look at their results, they've had a lot of sort of odd goal defeats and a 0-0 draw against Reading as well recently. But then again, they've also had, batterings from Cardiff and Hull. So, but Stephen Bender was getting rave reviews for his performance against Fulham. And, Town fans know what a big difference a good goalkeeper can make with what we've seen with Lee Nichols this season. So having someone that they trust and that they like in goal could make a big difference to them, and could make it a long day for Town, even if they do eventually get the breakthrough.
Yeah, and just to show I wasn't copying you, I did have Sven Bender in my notes as well, Stephen Bender. So 8 saves in the box he made against Fulham. Maybe we won't pepper the goal as much, but like you say, Town fans do know the importance of a good goalkeeper. Tom, did you go for anyone different then in this one?
I did. I went the other end of the pitch, and I put Jack Marriott down, mainly just from the bits I saw from him in that Fulham game, the way he took that goal. It was a great finish, and I think that was just a little sprinkle of the quality that he does actually have. And I think he's gone off the boil a bit when he went to Derby. That season they got in the playoffs, he was kind of in it. He scored the winner at Leeds, I think. He was in that team then, and then it's kind of just died off for him. I guess that happens, doesn't it, with players? So I just think there's always a threat there with him. But I also thought that is it Callum Morton, the lad on loan from West Brom? He looked quite tidy, I thought. He set his goal up at Fulham, but he had a few shots as well that looked a bit dangerous. So I just think if you kind of keeping them quiet, nothing else stood out for me anyway.
Okay, fair enough. Who did you pick as a key player then, Tom, for Town? Did you are you going defensive like you normally do? I feel like I'm teasing you a lot today. I don't know why. It's maybe because Stephen's on. Yeah, it's because Steve's on. I'm trying to impress him.
Yeah,
showing
exactly.
off.
Yeah. I went Lewis O'Brien because I see this as a game that like he can maybe conduct it in the middle. The way they looked against Hull, like what worked well for Hull on Saturday, it looked like their attacks kind of were starting in the centre of the pitch. And then they were working either flank, and then whoever was in the middle seemed to end up in and around the penalty box, and they had so much space. And I just think if O'Brien can work on that, I mean, what I thought, I mean, this could come back to bite me, like this classic, but I thought that Peterborough team looked kind of, would you say, weak? I just thought they didn't look like they had anything in the middle that you'd like get hold of. And I think if O'Brien can just boss that in the middle and stop anything happening there, it's going to be massive for us on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, he's our best player, isn't he? So, in my opinion, so I think it's always a great shout. But I think particularly, I think Matt said it. I think you've said it as well, Steve. But O'Brien's just so good now. He needs to have a 9 out of 10 for people to notice when he's pretty much having a 7.5.
Yeah, exactly. No, he's been your best player since you come back to the Championship pretty consistently. And we do feature on our site the power rankings where it's almost like putting the players in, sort of try to guess how Carlos Gulbrand would see his team if he was writing it down in sort of in order. And I think Lewis O'Brien would be first name on that team sheet. He's played every minute since he came off, didn't he, against Preston when he came back from COVID. He had 70 minutes there, and since then he's played every single league minute. He's not been rested, he's not come off. And even Jonathan Hogg got rested recently, and Harry Toffolo. So he's such an important player, isn't he? And yeah, I think everyone sort of gets the sense that we're on borrowed time with Lewis O'Brien. But we've been saying that for the last, we thought he'd go last summer, he didn't. We thought he might go in January, and he didn't. So, yeah, just enjoy him while he's there, I think, because I think he's one of those players who, as much as sort of everyone loves him and adores him, I think it's only when he goes that we'll actually go, oh, God, look how much work he was doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, not that I imagine many Premier League team scouts listen to this, but, he's not that good, really. We're just, Steve, did you pick O'Brien as well as your key player, or did you go for someone different?
No, I mean, it's always difficult to pick a key player at the moment because sort of everyone's contributing in such a big way. But I'm going to go with Sorba Thomas. I think he's in really good form at the moment. And we've sort of held as our maxim throughout the season that when Sorba Thomas plays well, Town invariably play well, and I think we've seen that a lot recently. He's played a big part in all of the last 4 goals that he scored. He put in the cross for 3 of the last 4, and was obviously heavily involved in chasing that ball over the top for the second goal against Birmingham, and really helped make that happen in a big way. So he's been, I said this on our podcast as well, so sorry for repeating a point, but I feel like if Sorba Thomas hadn't had that brilliant start to the season, we'd probably be talking about him a lot more now than people have been. I think he's now sort of, people expect this from him at this point, but fair play to him because he's actually delivering it. So yeah, I think he's your big creative player at the moment on that right wing. He's the one who looks most likely to create stuff consistently.
Yeah, and I think he's formed a great connection with the fans. Like you see his little dance at the end, and we all like some shithousery. We love what Nichols is doing, but I particularly enjoyed it at the Cardiff game when he was doing a little dance before taking a throw into waste time.
Yeah, my wife loves him. My wife occasionally watches Town games. She doesn't watch every game, but she'll watch them now and then. And like, obviously, she's not hugely into football. She's a bit into football. She absolutely loves Silver. So I think he's just that kind of player, isn't he? Just sort of, I think it's interesting that like everyone you play against boos him, and I think he is one of those players who just gets booed because he's good.
Yeah,
in a way that sort of like winds people up. And yeah, I mean, you want players like that on your side, don't you? He's a big character.
Absolutely. So I went for my key player for this one. I went for Danny Ward, just because I think obviously rested against Birmingham. We're surprised he was, actually, but I think, we've got a lot of games coming up, makes a lot of sense. But I can just see him coming in and hassling their back line, and Rhodes has been great. I think we've all kind of talked about it, but his sub appearance against Cardiff was great. And I just think that's kind of how you see him. Again, we talked about at the start of the season how we'd see him fitting in. I think it's kind of getting more clear for me, at least. He's probably most effective as a sub, coming to make a difference. But Ward's just been amazing. I suppose you feel a bit vindicted, Steve, because you were saying, stick with him, and he's just been fantastic. And I think, certainly for me as a fan, I'm not as analytic as yourself, but I think the biggest compliment I can give Ward is when he's not in the team, you notice what he does when someone else is trying to.
Yeah, I think he's miles ahead of the other centre forwards, to be honest, and that's no sort of knock on Jordan Rhodes. I think it's just an indication of what a good season Danny Ward's had. And we have sort of joked about being smug about we told you so with Danny Ward, but really the scouting that we did on him was all about his finishing stats and how good his finishing was. But what's really impressed me is how good he's been in sort of the build-up play. That when I sort of picture Danny Ward in my mind's eye, it's someone playing the ball to him on halfway and him sort of just spinning past his man, taking a touch and just taking it past someone and getting a move going. I think he's been excellent at that, and he's been excellent at all departments of the game this season. I almost picked him myself, actually, Brady, so it's a good thing that we had to put a difference there.
Yeah, great minds and all that. And just to get in my own smugness, I remember when he scored the goal against Coventry last season after what he admitted was a torrid season. I said, well, he's meant to be the best finisher at the club, give him a chance. And people still weren't having it. Well, look at him now. That's all I've got to say. That was very Partridge, so we'll move on. There's no view from the other side this week. Maybe that rivalry, Tom, the Peterborough United fans, maybe they don't want to speak to us. So we'll skip in because it's time for everyone's favourite section. We're going to get a hop in the DeLorean, get it up to 88 because it's time for Return to the Mac.
Christopher Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. De Potter's got the better. Yes! And Laurent De Potter scored! What a goal, Aaron Moy! An absolute thunderbolt delivered all the way from Australia.
Return to the Mac. Okay, so gentlemen, you know the score. You know how this goes. Tom, who do you go for?
Because obviously this gets harder and harder each week. I have gone for a bit of a USA theme because of the introduction of the man down the road. I had a look at the games we played against Peterborough, and this is probably wrong because you never know. Stats are normally wrong when you're figuring them out yourself. But I saw there's only there's two town players who've scored 2 goals against Peterborough in like the last 20 years in one game. One of them I've already picked before, and the other one was John Forrington. So I'm bringing John Forrington back for this game just simply because he played Peterborough once and scored 2 goals against him. I used to like John Forrington though. He was like one of my first kind of town players that I met in person as well, which was like, oh my God, he's from America. That's amazing. What's he doing in Huddersfield? And he was quite a nice little tidy player. He was a good attacking midfielder. So I've gone for John Forrington for loads of weird reasons, nothing in particular, Brady.
No, that's fair enough. What was he like when you met him? Was he very nice to you?
It was in the old Huddersfield Sports Centre in the really bad cafe burger bar thing they had. Do you remember that at all?
Yeah, I think I do. Yeah.
So it was in there overlooking the pool. It was all right, but I think he was thinking, what am I doing in this sports centre with a bunch of kids?
Flip that out. That could be an interesting out of context.
Yeah.
Give us yours first, Brady, before you take mine.
Okay. Well, to be honest, this is the section I always kind of leave last minute because, like Tom's right, it gets harder and harder every time. So Tom kind of broke the rules with the old format the other week by getting in Terrier the Terrier from 2008. So
was that the big head Terry the Terrier?
Yeah, with his tongue out.
AK Better Terry. Best Terry.
Yeah. I was actually that Terrier the Terrier at Stockport away in 2000, and the season we got in the playoffs against Millwall, I was that Terrier the Terrier at halftime at Stockport away.
Amazing. Do you know what? I want you to either get to the playoff final or the FA Cup semis this year, because just because I want to go anyway, but also because my brother has worked at Wembley and I've not, and it annoys me because he was Wolfie for Warrington Wolves. So he's worked at the Challenge Cup final as Wolfie and been on the telly and everything. He was on a tandem bike with Mohammed, I think. Anyway, so yeah, that's what I mean. If that's not motivation for the players, like, put that up in the dressing room for me, I reckon.
Chicken wants Wembley coverage. Yeah. There we go. That'll get motivated. For Chicken. Lads, we need to win today, just for Stephen. Go on. Well, you've got a good relationship, mate. So, I've stalled long enough. I still can't pick. I'm just going to go for. You've picked a USA connection. I'm going to go for a proper USA manager, not Jesse Marsh. I'm going to go for David Wagner, not to be in the dugout, just to be there. Good vibes. Just watch the game. I don't know. That's my choice.
Interesting.
Yeah, he can see what Carlos is doing. He can see that his baby's carrying on fine.
Yeah, that's
not
nice.
To worry. Yeah, Steve, who have you gone for?
Pass. Just
pass.
You don't need anyone. You don't need anyone from the past. There's players in this squad that aren't even getting into the team at the moment. So Aaron Rowe's not been in a squad for ages. Scott Hyde's not been in a squad for ages. Fraser Campbell's not been in a squad for ages. So, well, not outside the FA Cup anyway. So. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that you're picking Terry the Terrier and David Wagner, isn't it? Because, I think this feature sort of really, really worked when Town were not doing well, and now they're actually doing well. It's like, actually, this lot are probably better than most of the players we've had.
Very true, very true. I'll tell you what, you can't get away with passing. So what I'll say is, you've got to pick.
I'll have Mel Booth then. I'll have Mel Booth. I'll have him back in the press box with me, particularly because it's a Friday night and we've got the print deadline. So it's live blog, match report, player ratings. If he could take over at least the blog for me, that would be helpful.
Well, my question for you was going to be if you had to pick a player who's no longer at the club, but from your time covering, you love to interview, who would you pick?
Oh, that I like to interview.
Yeah. Oh, you just enjoyed the vibes.
Steve Mounier.
Yeah,
really. Yeah, very positive, outgoing, always a laugh even when things were bad. He was I do miss Steve actually.
Well, yeah, I also miss Steve. I mean, just for when he was in France and he talked about how he missed Marston's chicken more than being back in England. So
he just got it, didn't he?
He did.
Anyway, there's other stories that I don't know if you can repeat.
Well, I definitely want to hear them when we stop recording. Anyway, we'll move on because it's time for You're the Boss. I suppose the main question really, gents, is we've said many a time, the team's playing well, so a lot of players can, you could argue 13, 14, maybe even 15 players to make a case to start for. My main question is, Tom, I'll come to you first. Do you rotate a little bit with the cup game for Forest on Monday? Do you change the squad here or do you play a weakened side against Forest?
It's a good question, Brady. I think I'd change against Forest because, like Stephen's just said, though, I think there's players who aren't in that squad who could come in and do a job. There's players that have got to be knocking on the door, and if they get a chance, it's their chance to kind of look at John Russell. He's kind of he's keeping Scott High out of that team now.
And to be fair.
And Eighton, yeah, do you know what I mean? How crazy is this?
This is it. Yeah, we keep forgetting about Carol Eighton. Yeah, that's not just me.
Yeah, it's insane this, how it's gone from last season where we were struggling to put players in positions because we were are they even good enough? And then not having anyone back up to this now, it's great. So I think probably keep it the same, but bring Ward in for Friday. Although I thumbs up to Jordan Rhodes for his performance, because I don't know if you I watched it back and I watched the corner back, and if you watch him on average is that how you say that keeper's name?
Yeah.
He gives him this cheeky little nudge, right? Just before the ball's coming over, and it just pushes him too far to be able to claim it. Stops him catching that ball going to the back post, and we score. And then for the second one, I mean, he's there next to O'Brien, and it was like one of those two getting that ball. So I do feel a bit for Jordan, because I think he's so desperate to score as well. You could see with that O'Brien one, I think he was hoping that O'Brien might square it to him. And then there was one where Sorba hit the bar on it, and Jordan was like that.
Yeah, jumping up like that.
Yeah. So he is desperate for a goal, but I do think I'd bring Ward back in for this one, and then you can bring Rhodes on to cause a bit of havoc later on in the game. But I think keep it as it is, because I think we found against Cardiff that maybe the formation we played against Birmingham was more similar to Fulham, was it?
Well, they played sort of 4-4-2 against Fulham, where you had Lewis played alongside Danny Ward. Against Birmingham, it was sort of, I thought at first it was a 4-4-2 again with Dwayne at number 9, but like it was definitely 4-4-2 off the ball with Dwayne at centre forward, but with Rhodes, but sort of on the ball it looked more like a 4-2-3-1. So Holmes had sort of dropped back in a bit, but then make the runs from deep. So we haven't seen a lot of 4-2-3-1 from Town this season. I thought that was curious with Andrew coming back in, who can play as a number 10, whether they might be sort of laying groundwork for that, or whether I'm just reading way too much into it, whether it's just where Dwayne prefers to operate. But yeah.
I mean, Steve, you talked about Big Tino. I heard a rumor that he might be in for Friday on the bench. Is anything on that?
Well, I asked Carlos on Saturday where he's up to, and he said he expected Andrew to be in training this week with the rest of the squad. So I think you have to bear in mind, though, he has been out for quite a long time. He's been out for sort of 5 months now. So I think they would like to get him involved as soon as they can, because obviously, there's only 11 games left plus the cup. So, if they're going to, they've signed him for a reason, they've signed him to play. So they'll want him up to speed as soon as they can. I think maybe 1 week after 5 months out probably isn't enough to get him in the starting lineup. But I mean, I wouldn't be hugely surprised if he was on the bench. We'll find out more on Thursday morning, I guess, when we got the press conference. But, I think all being well, I don't see why they shouldn't aim for it.
Mm-hmm. And same question to you, really, Steve. Do you think Town should rotate here, or focus on, or rotate for the cup? I suppose you could argue either way, really. Yeah,
I think it's a bit of both, isn't it? Because as we keep saying, like there's strong options whoever you play. I think I would agree. Put Danny Ward back in. I might give Josh Koroma a go in this game. I thought he might have started against Birmingham and he didn't, but he took that goal really well against Cardiff, and I think Carlos was very pleased with what he saw from him against Cardiff. So I might give him a go, and Pippa as well. I think Ollie Turton's done really well, but Pippa's another player who I think you want, if you're looking at a playoff push, you want him at least as an option and for him to be fully fit going into the playoffs. So I think you want to give him as many chances as you can get. So as much as Turton's done well, I think particularly this game against the bottom side, you're not going to do as much harm by putting a more attack-minded fullback in.
Yeah.
And then I think my only other sort of question mark then was whether you do the same on the other side and put Ruffles back in for Toffolo, and then save Toffolo for Monday. But yeah, I think again, we're almost at a point where whoever you play, you're looking good. And the other one, I suppose, is whether, we mentioned him already, whether Karolaitin gets a look in for this game, perhaps. He's not had many starts. He left Belgium, to get football, presumably, and he hasn't even been getting off the bench some games, let alone getting into the starting lineup. So it's whether, again, with Peterborough being a weakened side, not a weakened side, but a poor side, whether you think, do you know what, we can stick Aiton in here, not because he can only play against poor sides, but because, if you're going to sort of give him the minutes, this might be the one to do it in.
Yeah, because they're not good. They don't look like the team that are going to go out of the way to kick you. Do you know what I mean, Stephen? I just think they don't have a Jonathan Hogg in the middle. They don't have someone who looks like they're gonna go and get stuck in. And yeah, you give Aitin a chance. Surely this is a game that will give him a bit of that confidence. He's going to be able to do his thing pretty much without worrying about anyone, I think.
Yeah, my only sort of concern is whether you can really play Russell and Aiting in the same side from the start, because I think they're quite similar in a lot of ways. So whether you put Aitin in instead of Russell and then start Russell on Monday, who knows? But it's nice to have these options, isn't it? I mean, it's nice to have these sort of arguments about things.
Yeah,
no, definitely. I mean, you touched on there. I think I'd bring a 19 for this one. Like you say, we've kind of forgotten about him, which is mad, because when we brought him in on deadline day, I was like, oh, straight into the lineup. But I think it just shows you where Russell's not really come out of nowhere, but it just shows you how many options we do have. I think that was it. I'd probably, the only thing as well, maybe just give Lees a bit more of a rest because he got a gash on the head. And I don't think we'll particularly need him for this, famous last words, but maybe give Caldwell another game. And I thought, to be honest, against Birmingham, I know they had that, Nichols made that great save from Hernandez, and a good one from Bacuna, but I don't think they threatened too much, really.
No, they had those 2 shots, yeah.
Yeah. Glad Bacuna had a stinker. That's what we wanted, Tom. Maybe I'll jinx that on the preview, who knows, but
yeah.
Anyway. So how do we see this game going then, gents? So Tom, I'll come to you. I think we need to win this game, really. I think we will, but do you agree?
If we're serious about these playoffs, we need to win. Well, yeah, the last 11 games. Do you know, is it? And I think I heard on the main pod the other night, I think someone in the comments said, if we win on Friday, we'd be officially safe from relegation this season. So there's an extra incentive. But I have gone, Brady. I've not gone for a draw for once. I've gone for 2-0 Town win. I'm going Ward and O'Brien to score.
Lovely. I also went for a 2-0 win. I think it's going to be very similar to Cardiff in the sense that we're just going to have to be a bit patient, really. But I think, quality will win out. Steve, are you going for a win as well?
Yeah, I think it's got to be a win. I'll go. Do you know what? I never guess sort of big scorelines. I'm always very conservative when sort of opposition programs ask me for a scoreline or whatever. I'll go 3-0 for this one. Why not?
Oh, I can see the headline for you on Saturday morning: Town run riot against Peterborough. There we go. Lovely. Okay, well, we're pretty much wrapped up. But has the heating just come on, gents? Oh no, it hasn't. But I know that means it's time for hot takes.
Big bleep hot, mate. Big bleep hot, mate.
Yeah, so that was a poor intro, but this is Hot Takes, the part where you share your spicy opinions you have about Huddersfield Town, and we will debate it on this pod. So Hot Takes will be anonymous, and if you want to take part and drop your controversial opinions in, don't forget to email brady@takesthatchance.com for a chance to be featured. Now, folks, this hot take came steaming into my inbox following the news about a change in the boardroom. And it's this. Huddersfield Town fans need to recognise that Phil Hodgkinson deserves Cap's huge credit for getting Carlos and his team in and rebuilding our club on solid foundations and a tiny budget. Tom,
and that's that's from Phil H in
Phil PJH. I'm serious. Yeah, I should vet these actually. Yeah. Anyway, Tom, thoughts?
Huge in capital letters. I don't know.
It was, yeah.
I don't know about huge credit. I mean, I'm not part of the club, so was it a Phil decision, Carlos, or had he been lined up for God knows how long, But I mean, you've got, if that's his decision, it is a great move from him. He did seem very involved, I guess, the way he came across. So, But what was it? So just the Carlos thing, he deserves credit for that. I'd give him credit for
And
that.
rebuilding our club on solid foundations and a tiny budget. Would you agree with that?
So the transfer policy's been great. I don't know if that's down to Phil though. Again, is that down to Josh Marsh and Bromby, who have brought in some really good, they've turned it around. Some of the players we brought in the Premier League, I can't believe it's the same team. So that's another thing that I don't know enough about personally, like who's done what there. But the players that they brought in is great. But I don't know, Brady. It's a tough one. It's a very political kind of thing as well, isn't it? Your opinion on this kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Steve, you're a man who's got his finger on the pulse of the club more than maybe anyone. What do you think? Do you think town fans need to give Phil a bit more credit?
I think some do, but I mean, those people are never going to. Like, there are people who, the moment Phil Hodgkinson came in the door, were saying he was potless and he was skint and he, wouldn't do this, wouldn't do that, and he'd been at the club he hadn't even set foot in the door yet, kind of thing, and he never won those people over. I think, obviously, he didn't have the means that Dean Hoyle did. That was evident right from the start. But he took the club over at a time when everything was sort of as down as it possibly could have been. Obviously, the decision to sell at the time from Dean Hoyle was largely motivated by his own personal health, and it was sort of Phil was the person who was sort of nearest to it at the time, sort of right place, right time in that respect. But I think obviously some mistakes were made. I think obviously the first summer back was a real chance to, I think, not appointed a director of football to oversee that summer. I think was a big mistake, to be honest, because they didn't have anyone. David Webb came in that August and then was effectively almost made redundant by the fact that they gave the Cowleys the title of manager rather than head coach, and quickly left the club. And I think that first transfer window was a big chance to, when you've come back down, to shift out the players you didn't want to keep around and bring in the players that you would for the longer term. And they failed to do that, which I think sort of set the tone with a lot of people for a lot of his reign. But I would say he was very decisive getting rid of Jan Sievert, which I think was the right decision. I think the Cowleys were the best people he possibly could have got for that job, because I think there's been a lot of sort of retrospective sort of doing down of the Cowleys for me. But I think people overlook what an impossible situation they came into and what a great job they did keeping town up. And, it was Hodgkinson that stuck at it and stayed with them as well, because they turned it down and Phil stuck at it and made sure he got them in. So I think credit for that one. I think last season is quite difficult to judge, because the recruitment they did, or rather the sort of the lack of recruitment, was really sort of imposed on them by the pandemic. Obviously, we know now that Phil's own businesses were struggling, so he couldn't put loads of money in. But I think even if he could have done, Town had those contracts to run down, which they did, with likes of Alex Pritchard and Isaac Mbenza. And I know obviously we love Christopher Schindler, but he was expensive, sort of compared to what to Town's wage bill now. So it was just a case of seeing those deals out and then getting to this summer. And when I spoke to people at the club last season, they were saying almost like, we expect a tough season, and then we'll go again next year once we've been able to do this round of recruitment. And to be fair to them, though, they were right on it right from word go. And a lot of the brilliant recruitment they did in the summer, most of those players, with the exceptions of I think Sinani and Lees, all of them were done before pre-season even started. So I think it's, everyone always wants was he good, was he bad? I think there's good things and bad things in there. I think there's an argument that he sort of has left it in a better state, sort of in terms of playing staff and staff off the pitch and club culture, than he found it in, for sure. But then there's also an argument that, well, he couldn't exactly have taken them for any lower than he found it. So I think it's a shame that things have ended as they have, obviously. But I think the club are in a position now, not to sound all sort of PR speaker or anything, but are in a position to sort of move forward now and look to the future and sort of put it behind them. I think, the lack of money that he was able to put into the club for a lot of fans is going to be the one and only issue of the Phil Hodgkinson era, really. But I think there are good things in there as well.
Yeah, very well said. And I think, to be completely honest, I wasn't. I think Phil had his heart in the right place.
Yes,
I think as a fan, I think we can all say that. And I think for me, he said some silly things at the start, and I think maybe that's, again, we in football, we forget this, but they are human people. And like, you do get a bit carried away.
Yeah, getting carried away is the way I would put it. Yeah. I mean, even towards the end, sort of, I think of that last interview that we did in September and is, talking about the stadium and all the promises around that. And, I think he did. Yeah, getting carried away is exactly the right way to put it. And it wasn't that he was trying to lie or manipulate or sort of put spin on anything. I think he was just very sort of enthusiastic and sort of would get carried away with stuff sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And, like you say, did a lot of good things. I think you spot on there, Steve. Like, a lot of people want a black and white answer. Like, he was either terrible, the worst thing that ever happened to the club, or he was, the messiah and rescued us when we were at our worst. You were spot on about Sievert, got rid of him fairly quickly. Fairly, I think, gave him a chance in the summer because, circumstances when Sievert came in. Exactly. I completely agree with you about the Cowleys. And
I didn't. Sorry, go on.
No. Just I completely agree with you about the Cowleys. No team had done that before, after having that little amount of points and stayed up. And I think you can't, that was incredible. And I know the style under Cowleys wasn't great. Maybe this is another podcast, but I think that's very circumstantial.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. They were fighting for their lives. The style was completely secondary to results. But I wasn't a fan of the decision to get rid of the Cowleys. But one thing I didn't mention as well was Carlos Corberán being brought in under his watch, and that was a bit from what I understand. Lee Bromby was the link there. He'd played against them when he was the academy manager. He'd played against his under 23s and was really impressed and intrigued by how he worked, and that was where sort of that started. But I think more than appointing Carlos Corberán, it was sticking by him and having the faith and having sort of the patience to realise, no, we expected to have sort of a rough season. We have put him in, and acknowledging that the club had put him in quite a difficult circumstance. And that he deserved another season to have a go at it and see what he could do when he was given sort of the resources. I think that was a good bit of canny leadership, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is the thing. We can speculate, but we'll never truly know how involved he was with the decisions. But like you say, everything, all these positive things did happen under his watch. I saw a tweet somewhere saying, no coincidence, we've started doing amazingly and going on this unbeaten run as soon as Phil's left. And I just think that's got nothing to do with it.
It is a coincidence, like it literally is.
Yeah, it's literally a coincidence. So, like I say, I think the guy, for me, as a fan, he did a few things I was a bit, but I think he just had a personality. I think he got carried away. He said when you say stuff in the cold light of day, like you say stuff in the moment, getting caught up and someone's looking at it in an article 3 months down the line when you're playing terrible. Yeah. And you touched on it, Steve, the big word COVID. Like, I think, to be honest, that's always going to be a big question mark for Phil's time, because it completely changed the landscape of football, really. And, town suffered, and I don't think we'll truly know. And, however it's ended, I think it is positive that it's a new chapter and that's come to a close. But, like I say, Phil did some things I didn't agree with. He did some things I thought were good, but,
I think whether it was sort of an intentional decision that was made knowing that it would give them an advantage now, or whether it was because of sort of, because of a lack of sort of personal wealth to put in, personal cash, the decision last season to say, actually, we'll just have a year of pain this year and then we'll be in a better position next year, like now looks like a brilliant decision, because you look at the likes, you look at how many clubs in this division are now going through the same thing that Town did last year, like the Swansea and Reading, for instance, who were right up there last season and are now having an awful time because they're having to tighten their belts this season, and Town, having been through that, are now flying. So, whatever the motivation behind it, that as we sit here right now, looks like it's paying off big time.
Absolutely. And, I think you touched on it with Lewis O'Brien, maybe after when he does go, people appreciate him back more. I'm not saying people will appreciate Phil the same way as Lewis O'Brien. Let's not do that. But, time is, you look back, time gives you a chance to reflect and look back, and maybe, who knows, maybe we'll see. But I think what I would say is, sorry, Tom, I'll come to you in a sec, but what I would say is, no matter if you like the guy or not, I think for his other businesses to go into administration and, for people to lose their job, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And it's a shame it had to end that way. Yeah.
No, what you kind of just touched on then, Brady, I guess the one thing that I liked about him was that you knew he was a fan, at least. I mean, I kind of fell out of him when he got rid of the Cowleys, and it did turn out to be a decent decision. But at the time, I was fuming at that. I couldn't believe he'd done that. But yeah, you've got to look at what's going to come next, because I don't think Hoyle wants to keep hold of the club particularly. I mean, it'd be quite amazing if he came back and did another 5 or 6 years or something after doing it already. So then you've got to look at who's going to take it over, and I've really enjoyed it being a fan that's actually been at kind of running the club, and I don't know what it'd be like not having a fan running the club. It feels more involved, and you kind of trust them a bit more. So I don't know. We'll see, won't we?
Absolutely. I mean, we could probably talk about that for another hour or so, but I suppose everyone has their opinion, and that was it. He was a bit of a Marmite character, wasn't he? You either liked a lot of what he did or disagreed, and some people, kind of in the middle, liked what he did, disliked some of the things he did. But the only thing that's important right now is HMS Piss the Playoff continues to march on, and that's fine. So we'll probably leave it there. Thanks to Tom and Steve for coming on. Thank you to the listeners for tuning in as always. And thanks to Magic Rock for sponsoring this episode as always as well. We will be back to preview the Forest Cup game. Oh, Tom, quarterfinals potentially if we get through. Very exciting stuff. But, Wembley. And that's it. Ta-ta for now and up the town.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town. And the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.